Hello and thanks for watching Best Maths Tutors. I'm continuing to go through the Edexcel Higher Tier paper from 2019. This is paper 3 and we're on question 21. And I'm covering all the questions on this paper, so if you hit the subscribe button at the bottom, then you'll be able to see all the questions with answers. So this is a question which involves a histogram. So this is our histogram here, and we can tell it's a histogram because the vertical axis is actually frequency density as opposed to just frequency, which would mean it would be a frequency graph instead. So what we've also got to do is we've got to make sense of this histogram, and then we've got to look at the pie chart for the second part of the question, and we've got to work out this angle x. But first of all, number one, we're just going to look at the histogram. Okay, so here we go. So here's the histogram on its own. And as I say, what we've got is the frequency density there. So we might be very familiar with graphs like this where it's frequency on this axis. But the frequency density comes from a formula which is that the frequency density is equal to the frequency in any particular class divided by the class width. Okay, so we can see that here's the frequency density. So this first group, the frequency density is 2, and the class width is actually going from 0 to 60. And if we wanted to get the frequency as opposed to the frequency density, we could rearrange this and we get the frequency, which I'm just going to use f, as is given by the frequency density, fd, times by the class width. So I'll call that CW. So the frequency can be given by multiplying what we've got for the frequency density here by the class width. So in this first group, we would say what's 2 times by 60, the class width. So the frequency in that group, in group 1, is given by 2 frequency density times by the class width, 60. So we can see that would be 120 there. So just to save time, what I've done is I've drawn this table here. So we can see we've got different columns. So we've got the weight, because the weight comes from this unit on the graph here. So we're measuring the weight of these onions. And then the frequency density is obviously this axis, the vertical axis. And we're going to try and work out the frequency for each one. So the first group is going from 0 to 60, as we can see there. So that's where these values come from. And what I've said is that 0 is less than or equal to, W rather, is greater than or equal to 0. So that means 0 is the minimum value that it could have. And it's less than 60. And then for the next group, we can see that W could equal 60 and go up to 90, but be just below it, so it can be less than 90. And so we need to fill in, first of all, the frequencies for each one of these frequency densities. So the first group is 2. The next group, so we just read across from here, that's 5. The next group we've got, you can see that's 9, so we read across there, that's going to be 9. The next group is 6. And the next group again is 2. And just looking at this value, where did I get the 135 from? So we can see that that's this point here. And because it's exactly in the middle of the 150, which is here, and the 120, which is here, so that would be a distance of 30. If I divide 30 by 2, then I get 15. So if I add that onto the 120 there, 120 plus the 15 gives me 135. So that's that point there, 135. So that's where I got the class boundary here, 135, 135. So then I'm going to work out what the frequency is, and I'm going to do that in each case by taking the class width, so that's the distance between the 0 and the 60 in this first case, and multiplying it by the frequency density. So that's going to be 60 times 2, which is 120. The next one, we can see class width is 30 because it's going from 60 to 90. And then we times that by 5. So 30 times 5 gives me 150. And then do the same there. So we've got 90 to 120. So that means that the class width is 30. If I times that by 9, I get 270. With this group here, 120 to 135, that's 15. Times that by 6, that gives me 90. And then this final group, 135 to 180. So 135 to 180 is going to be 45. Times by 2 is going to give me 90 again. So that's the frequency table from the histogram. We've converted it into a frequency table. So now what that tells us is how many onions are actually in the category, first of all, 0 to 60. So we're going to use this information then when we look at the pie chart in the next bit. So now I've copied the frequency table from the histogram over to this page, which has got the pie chart on it. And what we're going to try and do is work out this angle x, which is the angle on the pie chart representing the onions that are sent to the food processing factory. So what we can see is we've got 3 different outcomes for these onions. So we've got those that are pickled. So I'm going to set up another little table. Those that are pickled, those that are sent to market, and those that are sent to the factory. So just make a little table here. Oops. Would be neater, but anyway, it'll show what I'm trying to show. So really we need 2 columns for this table as well. And what we're going to have is the frequency. So that means the number that's in each group of these. And then we're going to work out the angle as well. So the angle that it would show up as on the pie chart. So the frequency, so the first one is less than 60 grams. We can see from our table that's 120, that frequency. And then we're looking at the those that are sent to market. Well, those that are sent to market is actually those which weigh more than 120 grams. So that's these 2 groups. That's the 90 and the 90. That's 180. And then it says the rest of the onions are sent to the food processing factory. So that's these 2 groups, this one and this one. So if we add them 2 together, then that's going to give us the number that's sent to the processing factory. So that's going to be 420. Having got the frequency table here for each one of these categories, so we've got we've got a frequency of 120 for those that are sent for pickling, 180 for those that are sent to market, 420 for those that are sent to the processing factory. Then we need to work out the angle for each one that we would we'd do it for the pie chart. So this would be the angle for those used for pickling. And there's a formula for that the angle is given by the frequency in any particular group divided by total. So if we added all those up, we get total frequency divided by the total, and then because we've got a circle, we multiply it by 360 because that's the angle in a circle. So if we do that for the first group, then what we'd have is 120 over the total, which is 720, and times by 360. And we can just do that on the calculator, or we could cancel this fraction. So we could say that would give us 2 on the bottom, 1 on the top. So we get 120 divided by 2. So that would tell us that the angle for those used for pickling would be 60 degrees. So that means this angle here is 60. Those sold at the market, it's the same formula, but actually it's going to be 180 over the total, 720 times by 360. And if we put that in the calculator, that works out as 90. So 180 divided by 720 times 360. That's 90. But the one we're looking for is actually this one. And we could use the information we've just worked out here, add them together, take away from 360. Let's write this one in here actually. But let's do it like this, 420 over 720 times 360. So that cancels, that's 2. So actually that gives me 210. And if I add them all together, this is a final check we could do. We would get 60 plus 90 is 150, add it to 210, and that's 360. And that's what it should be, because obviously it's a circle, so all these angles I've got to add up to 360. So this one is 210, and we need to just make sure that we indicate that somewhere. So X is 210 degrees. So I hope that's been helpful to you. If it has, please subscribe to our channel, clicking the button at the bottom, and also like our video. And for more help, visit our website, which is bestmathstutors.co.uk, and there it is in the left top corner. Thanks for watching.